Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Gruber, Senior Analyst at ESG. I'm here today with Dave Bagat, who's the CEO of Inky Email Security. And we're here to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that are associated with email security. Our ESG research shows that organizations are still plagued with breaches that involve phishing at some point in the attack chain. There's a ton of investment going on in email security solutions today, yet for some reason, phishing attacks are still making their way through email security controls. Dave, why can't we get this email security thing right? Like, what is it about email that makes securing it so challenging?
Yeah, still the number one vector, right? The most effective vector. The reason is twofold. The first reason is email is just really old. So it dates to the 70s. It predates modern concepts of authentication. And as a result of that, it's easy for people to forge mail. You can set up a mail server and send mail as the Queen of England if you want. It's not really the same level of authentication you have in protocols like Signal. And then part two is, if you look at the history of the secure email gateways, the incumbent systems, they evolved out of spam filtering. Spam filtering is all about look at the content of the mail. Are there lots of dollar signs? Does it talk about Viagra? If so, it's bad, it's spam. If not, then it's good. And the thing that we realized years ago when we started looking at this problem was, if I'm an attacker and I want you to think of Microsoft, what's the easiest way for me to do that? I take a real mail from Microsoft and I replay that to you. The content is identical. So what we realized is to solve phishing, you have to detect impersonation or forgery, and that just requires fundamentally different techniques than the content classification systems have.
Yeah, okay. So that makes sense to me. As an email administrator today, at least with the controls that I have, I'm forced to sort of make a decision on how strict that I want my policies to be. Either I lock them down hard, which is frankly painful for both me as the email administrator and as the end user. But the other extreme is I go lean and I'm stuck with allowing too many things to get through in the infrastructure. There must be a better way.
Yeah, exactly. And, at Inky, what we do is we think of it as there's a third way. Deliver it with guidance. And so we've pioneered this concept that we call a real-time email assistant. Think of it as your helper that lives inside your inbox telling you, hey, that mail appears to be from your vendor, but sure doesn't look like something she would normally write. So use caution.
That feels good. So having an assistant or an assistive approach feels good to me, but doesn't that add friction to the process?
Actually, it makes it a lot less friction because, if you think about lots of mail going to quarantine, that's user hostile. Delivering bad stuff, that's user hostile. This is sort of a way to very unobtrusively guide the user. And really, if you think about it, we're using AI, the similar kind of AI that we use to block stuff that we know is malicious. We're using it for a different purpose. Think of it like self-driving cars, right? Like a self-driving car, the holy grail is you can just fall asleep and it drives you there. We're not there yet. The false positive is that runs you off the road. You don't want that. But all machine learning has this false positive negative aspect. And so for this, think about, we're doing something akin to lane keeping, right? The car still uses AI, looks at the road and warns you if you leave the lane in the same way, or it helps steer you in traffic in the same way. This is like, hey, user, this may not be who you think it is, or this looks like a wire request. Confirm wire requests outside of email. Here's link to your company policy. If you've forgotten, creating teachable moments out of the real emails that the users get.
Wow, that's great. So side effect of this is I learn as I go. I still get to leverage the best of what comes from the machine on the ML and AI side of the house, and we add the context from the end user. That feels really, really good to me. So last question here. Where does Inky fit in the security stack? Is Inky an add-on technology? Does it replace what I have today?
Yeah, it's either one depending on what you already have. So we can work alongside any of the secure email gateways. I think we support over 50 of them now. In that configuration, Inky's the last line of defense before delivery to the inbox. So bad stuff can still go to quarantine. If it gets through the seg, we'll still block it. And then, of course, our guidance that we put in the email, that happens after the secure email gateways had a chance to look at the mail. Alternatively, we have customers who maybe they had an on-prem exchange, now they're O365, and they're looking at, do I even need a seg? And the answer is generally no. They can use Office 365 plus Inky and essentially get all of those capabilities they would otherwise have to pay a lot of money more for a seg to do, like spam filtering, malware, URL protection. We do all that stuff in Inky, and arguably, of course, we do a better job on phishing. So it's a win.
All right, Dave, that sounds like an easy implementation model. Dave Bagat, CEO, founder of Inky Email Security Solutions. Thank you so much for your time today. Super excited that there's a new approach to help head off the phishing epidemic.